Hey guys, so we're going to talk to you a little bit about the minimum viable brand. You may have heard of minimum viable product, hopefully, which is basically the least you need to do to get a product out to the audience so they can test it and you can refine it and you can build and scale and all that good stuff. So the minimum viable brand is something that I've been thinking of because I just started a new business and I am fighting to not make it overly complex because I have the 30,000-foot view of all of these things that I want to do and all of these things that I want to incorporate. And I'm having to let's just bring it down to a level that we can kick it out here before the end of the year. So yeah, the minimum viable brand. So we've been trying to talk through this a little bit backstage of what exactly do you need as the bare minimum when you're launching a new brand. And of course, we want to have our minimum viable product, which check, I've got that. I know my niche. You do want to have that kind of narrowed down. You'll probably refine it further from here on out, but you have to have an idea of who you're going to market this thing to before just throwing it out to the wide and to everybody. We've also kind of said that there has to be a simple website. Maybe there does, maybe there doesn't. I mean, we know people that start things on Facebook and Etsy and wherever, and I think that's okay, especially if you're just testing the waters. But I think it'll probably vary from business to business. I'm definitely doing it on my own website, but that's me.
That's what I generally do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you were going to say something about risk with that, I thought. But
well, and I think part of it is there's when you're building something on somebody else's platform, there's always the risk that they can pull the rug out from under you, or they can change the rules, or they can make it to where it's inhospitable for you. And then you're not necessarily able to determine, depending on where you are in that business process, it may be the platform that's not conducive to your business rather than your actual product, all of the marketing, all of that kind of stuff. So it's when you're renting somebody else's property, then there are inherent risks in that, which is why I prefer to build on my own land, my own website for that. So the advantage is you already have people, like if you do Etsy or a similar site that already has people looking for your broad kind of thing, then they're helping to funnel traffic to you. The downside is there's a whole lot of other people that are also on there as well. So it's something to bear in mind when you're making that decision as to where you're going to start. So, and there are a lot of people that start on and have started big businesses on Etsy or eBay or Facebook and other places. So it's not that you can't do it, just be aware of what you're kind of just the pluses and minuses for doing that. And when you might want to say, okay, I've proven that this is a thing. I know who buys this thing. Hopefully the platform will give you some indication of that. So then you can move off. The other thing is you don't have access. Like you cannot, according to Etsy's terms of service, you cannot email them for anything other than the specific order that they've purchased from you. So you don't own that audience. They're not your customers, they're Etsy's customers who happen to have purchased from you. So that's something that you'll have to start all over from scratch on your own website. So, and the power is in the list as far as ongoing marketing and sales and that kind of thing. So,
well, and the other thing is if you're building a brand, this is minimum viable brand. You don't really have that on one of those other platforms because, people, oh, I got it on Etsy. I got it on Amazon. It's nothing to do with you as a brand.
Yeah.
So there's no way to really build that there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like a quick way to, well, and probably that it falls more under the minimum viable product thing would be more applicable to Facebook, Etsy, eBay, something like that versus a minimum viable brand. So, and that maybe that's one of the distinctions that we make. So,
Yeah, maybe so, because I mean, my minimum viable product is there. It's tested. I already know
mhm,
where that's at. I'm not worried about my product at all with this. It's getting the brand launched. So
mhm.
right now, what's holding me up is the lead gen. I need to come up with that a little better and get my newsletter stuff hooked up.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's because I want to make 4 different lead gen magnets. Oh no, I'm making it complicated already, but
Well, and I think that is the difficulty though, when you have a well-established and fairly like an older business, by nature, they get more and more complex. You have more more points at which someone can enter into your world and purchase from you. When you're first getting started, you don't have all of that, nor probably should you, because you don't necessarily know until you have your thing out there in the world who exactly is going to buy from you. And at whatever particular point in time, depending on what you do, that may change over time as well. Um, so, and that's, part of with, I've got a new thing that I'm doing as well. And that's also okay, exactly where is that to where I have sufficient that I don't look like a fly by the seat of my pants person, which I am kind of doing, but I've got things in place to where I can scale, I can grow. It's stable. It's a viable thing without adding a whole lot of complexity to it that I don't need at this particular point in time. And for me, it is all both a minimum viable product as well as brand, because I've not done this particular thing in this manner before. So the product is not been tested. And part of my strategy for that is how I'm going to roll out and who I'm going to roll it out to before throwing it out there to the world. So to get the product testing done. But I also don't want to do that prematurely. So that's kind of the tightrope line I'm walking.
yeah.
So yeah. But so I think the other things that we had talked about were things to consider is if you have a product, you have somewhere to sell it, you have something that's bringing people to the place where you're selling it, you need to make sure that you've got a way for them to purchase from you or do the thing that you want them to do. So if it's purchasing a thing, if it's signing up for a class, whatever the thing is that you're wanting them to do, you need to be able to take their money in order to do the thing. So as well as you want to have, and Seneca touched on that briefly, but it deserves a little bit more time to have your mailing list set up so that you are selling a thing to get a lifelong customer, hopefully. So you can nurture that relationship in the weeks, months, and years to come. So that if you've got a product that's consumable, then they can come back and get another one very easily and handily, and they're not trying to figure out, now who is that from? So because I've purchased things before and I have no way of knowing okay, who was that and where was it and how do I get it again? So because it's not something I use up real quick, so it's not top of mind. So you want to have that sort of thing. But as far as, you don't have to necessarily have, like Seneca was saying, 5 different lead generation magnets and a segmented list and all these different, 50. Yeah. So, and basically just like with a class or anything like that, where people kind of opt in and stuff is dripped out to a certain extent, you just need to stay one session be that a week, a day, or whatever, ahead of the people. So you can build the plane as you're flying the plane. So we tend to do that a lot. So
I
but
had that permanent picture up with the wagon in front of the horse and the guy is just going for it.
yeah. Yep. So, and sometimes, I took locally, they had a big, like a small business, well, not necessarily like I forget what they called it, like a business incubation kind of class and stuff like that. And they were like talking more about from the perspective of getting venture capital and, so basically they're building a big thing before it even hits the market. And to me, there were fascinating aspects of that, because they were talking about, well, how are you going to scale and how does that work? Like if you're manufacturing a thing, like how are you going to do that? Like if you've got a finite number of space, then that may limit the quantity that you can produce in a given time frame. So you're going to have to work out, all those kind of things. So, but you don't have to be that complex or that, I guess unless you are seeking venture capital or you're seeking a loan from a bank. But
I can see it being really good to look down the road and see those kinds of things.
yeah,
But
you don't have to exactly know them to get started.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Well, for us,
always,
for me,
go ahead, sorry.
For me, it's always about, I want money as soon as possible so that I can start to build towards something, because I'm not actually ever going out towards getting investors or anything. I'm just bootstrapping.
Yeah.
So
and
it's about getting some money in before so I can invest it and grow.
Yeah. Yep. So, and that's partly, I think, what having a minimum viable brand is going to do. It's going to get you and enable you to start collecting money so that the business growth can be funded by the business, as opposed to your savings or an investor or loan or something else.
It's also going to give me the data that I need to realize how to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's I think insufficient discussion about the importance of data and how you go about getting the data and then what you do with it, especially in the early stages of your business.
Yeah, so when you're so new like that, that's just a lot of money to chuck out the door to have an investor or something like that when you don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's, for me, I like control over my own thing. So I'm not so much interested in investment capital because I don't want somebody else telling me that, oh, this is the way we're going to do this. Well, and maybe they've got a good idea. Maybe that is a smart way to do it, but I don't want someone else. And I think partly I want to be able to follow what God is telling me to do, even though it doesn't seem like necessarily the I don't know. I want to say, I want to kind of, yeah, it's just not the expected, way of doing things. So it may be different and it may be weird and it may be out of the box and it may be wildly successful. So, or it may take, longer to get going, but I
appreciate the challenge too. Like, I want to know that I did it.
Yeah.
Or I didn't do it and I screwed it up. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Also have done that. Yeah.
Fun, I guess.
Yeah. So, but, and that's not to say there are some things for both Seneca and I, our business models and our products are not, don't require a lot of infrastructure. They don't require a lot of equipment or that kind of thing to get going either. So there's a whole different thing. Like if you're going to start an automobile manufacturing plant, then, that you're going to need some tools and some space to get up and running to do that. So, but
Mhm.
although, you know, even then you can possibly see about renting somebody else's space or, you know, going in on a joint venture with something or, but but you know, we do recognize that like the way we do business is not the only way to do business. We're just sharing our perspective.
Yeah, and I was thinking another direction from that is what we do is just weird. So if you were to go and get some stuffy person with a business degree to advise us, it probably would not work whatsoever.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Just because it's so off the wall of most of the stuff.
mhm. Well, and part of like, and just for most of what I've done in my life, like I always dread going and getting professional help because there's always is the person going to be able to step outside the box enough to understand my question and then answer it in a coherent manner? So, you know, they're going to the hardware store is always
I was just gonna say the hardware store.
like I recognize that this is what normally happens with this material. However, this is what I'm going to do. I don't need you to tell me I can't do it because I am doing it. I need you to tell me how much of the thing I'm going to need. And then no, it
Oh,
just doesn't ever work that way.
we had a guy at the store. He would see us coming and he would know that he has to be the one that helps us because none
Yeah.
of them other yahoos are there.
Yeah. There was the guy at the paint store where I used to live. He's like, "Oh, what are you up to now?" Every time I'd walk in the door. Well, so, but that's half the fun for us, I think, is doing the out of the box things. But yeah, I mean, it is problematic. Like, you know, if you're going to sit there and explain that to a banker or, you know, some big
Mhm.
investment person, then yeah, that's a whole other, yeah.
I've had my share of that lately without any investors, so.
Yeah. Yep. So, all righty. Well, hopefully you guys
Anyway,
have. Did you say something? Sorry.
yeah, I was gonna try to wrap this up with the minimum viable ending, which is to say that however big you want to blow it up, see if you can get that down smaller than what you've currently got, because yeah, think minimum all the time and do the least that you can to get it out there and get it live, and you can polish later and you can convolute it later
Yeah.
and have all that fun.
Yeah.
But get it out there.
Absolutely. We'll talk to y'all next time.